Today, I'm really excited to share a case study conversation with Jenny Weidner. Jenny is a previous deputy head teacher, and she now has a coaching business which helps those, usually within education, to end the cycle of accidental leadership. She is a leadership strategist, executive coach, keynote speaker, and author. And she openly shares here so many lessons that she learned along the way, from leaving her job in education with burnout to starting and successfully building her coaching business, now to the point of having so many clients that she has another problem as to which ones to choose to work with. So I hope you love today's episode. There are so many golden nuggets and pieces of inspiration that we can all use in our business today. Hi, Jenny. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Thank you for agreeing to reflect on your journey in the business of coaching with me, to share a bit about you.
Yeah, hi Joe. It's lovely to see you again. Yeah, so my background is I've been in education for most of my life, but left to start a coaching business just over 3 years ago and came into your world when I realized that coaching qualifications were not enough to start and run a coaching business. So needed some support.
Can you remember back to what was going on at the time and the impact that it may have been having?
Yeah, so when I actually remember the first time we met, I was sitting in a hotel room. It's the first sort of big paid job I'd managed to get in my business. And I had all these pieces of paper around me for our initial call. And I'd said to you that I'd created lots of doors. So I'd opened lots of doors for my business in terms of conversations, pathways I could take, but had no clear direction. So the impact was that I was kind of edging inside some of the doors a little bit more by having further conversations, but not really committing to, I guess I wasn't really committing to stepping out from behind my laptop. I was in that kind of comfort zone of creation, creating more shiny things that I thought might be really interesting for the people that I could work with. But I wasn't really putting my business out there. And I guess that felt at the time a little bit overwhelming, but also it was quite lonely. I'd never worked alone. I'd always worked in big teams within education. And it was the first time I'd been in something alone. And I had great support around me, friends, family, but no one was living my business with me. And I guess there was that stuckness of, I don't know where to go next.
You describe it so well, and I cannot wait for the next section, because now it's amazing how outgoing you are and how out there you are. I had no idea that you were ever hiding behind your laptop or shiny ideas before working together. So I'm really, really excited to hear what created that shift.
I think at the heart of everything was the impact from working with yourself on the courage that I had to step out. I think I've always been really fortunate. Like my career had been on an upward trajectory for a very long time. I was very comfortable and confident in the career I had and the leadership positions that I had lived. And then I had to exit due to burnout. I'd taken myself down a really bad path and my career kind of suddenly came to a halt. And I was in that process of trying to kind of reinvent myself, I guess, in terms of identity, because my identity had been very wrapped up in the work that I did. And for the first time in my life, I had to sell myself instead of the school. You know, when I was deputy head in a school, I was great at talking about the strengths of the school and the team that I worked with. I co-owned a private day nursery. I could sell that to anybody because I truly believed in the value and worth of what my team provided for those children and families. So I guess for the first time, I was having to sell myself. It felt like selling myself as a person, and selling doesn't come naturally either. So I think the biggest thing for me was having yourself and the team that you work with, like in this lovely kind of position of being in the business with me, like that cheerleader, support, coach, most importantly, because, you know, obviously it's what I'm passionate about is not someone just giving you answers and strategies, although that's needed. It's that real deep thinking and challenge, which I very much needed. And I think what came from that was me working out slowly where my work was going to be most valuable, but also that sales, you had some wonderful modules in your program that I followed, but sales didn't have to be one thing. I saw lots of programs out there where it's like, create your email list or create a funnel, and that stuff, it just isn't really how I want to run my business. So I think you gave me the courage by working with you and your team to step outside behind my laptop with my business, but in a way that aligned to who I am. So the way I would do that was build connections by having conversations and reaching out to individuals and talk about my work in a non-salesy way. So first of all, it was having the courage to step out. But I think the other thing was it was having a community of people in the same sort of space. Like, it reminds you it's okay to have the fears or the thoughts, whatever I was experiencing at the time in starting a new business. And I guess the skills that I needed for how to build something effectively from scratch, because I'd owned a business before, but never built one from nothing. So, yeah, I think that if there was one thing, it was having someone with me to nudge me closer to the edge of my comfort zone. And there was a lot of resistance, I remember, about going to test your ideas with people. I remember thinking that is something I really don't want to do. But that gentle support and challenge made me take the leap. And I guess that's really where I've never looked back in terms of I now understand how I find clients and how I build that. And the other part of work that I've had to do myself personally, as well as through business of coaching, is leaning into my story that was the story I didn't really want to tell, and actually how that can now bring me closer to knowing that one real door that I probably should just be walking through. So it's probably reducing the resistance to something I sort of felt wasn't really right for me. And actually over time, I realized it was because I wasn't ready to tell that story.
Yeah, gosh, amazing. So much in there, Jenny. And I love that you felt able to find your own way. And like you say, especially if you're selling to organizations, great at connecting with people. Don't worry about the nurture sequence email thing. That's not really going to be how you get your clients. So I love that you felt free enough to be able to take what you needed from the program and to be able to support you with that. You were amazing at asking for help, taking on feedback, actioning it really quickly as well, and being so self-aware and thinking about any questions that were put to you and working your way through them. So it's an absolute joy.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was so personal, I think that was the other thing for me that made the real difference. It wasn't about a generic, like, this is what you can do if this is what you're stuck with, or, oh, we're all going to talk through this. And I guess the most important thing was you made me feel that I could share that. What you made me realize is engaging in that process with you and your team would just reap so many rewards. I think it was helpful to work through and think, what's making me avoid that? Or where's the resistance coming from? And what can I do to move forwards?
Yeah, love it. So tell us what's different in your life now. How have things changed?
So hugely, hugely different. If I think back to maybe sitting in that hotel room to where I'm sitting now, I guess first of all, which is the most important thing for my business, is I'm really clear on the message that I am sharing with people in terms of who I am, what I do, but most importantly, why I do it, whether you call it a niche or direction, whatever, still a little bit, still a little bit of resistance there. But I know exactly why I do this work and it's all steeped in my story. I guess I sit here now with my business being connected to my heart rather than it being this vehicle for kind of creation or nervousness, I guess, maybe right back at the beginning. So, I mean, the tangible differences are I now have a huge amount of work to the point where actually, I am super busy, but it's work that means something to me, which is really important. It has that connection to my values, but it's also really challenging. Like, I am really ambitious. And I think I've managed to find my way into places where actually I can meet that need for challenge and learning and progress, but also doing work that means something to me. I guess where I am now is looking at how do I continue. I feel like I'm now in the phase of continuing to build a business. I feel like I have now actually built a business, which back in the hotel room, there is no way I could have said that. I am committed and ambitious, so I would have moved forwards, but not at the pace. I hadn't expected maybe the pace at which I'd moved forwards. Like what I'd projected for this year, I've achieved in a much quicker timescale. And I think that is because of the support and challenge that I've kind of worked through with you. And I guess, yes, as I say, I'm now at the point where I'm like, how do I now build a business that really fits my life and what I really want, rather than that scared feeling of I have to try and build a business. Like I feel like I'm now in that more privileged position of, okay, I've established a core part of a business now, but now it's me feeling like I'm in a position where I can say, right, what would I choose to do or what do I need to do next, rather than how do I find any work? So the gap between those two places is really quite huge for me. And as I say, I hadn't maybe anticipated that I would be in the position that I am now back in those early days.
Yeah, totally. I remember you getting to that position and thinking, yeah, how can I make this work for my life? What
Mhm.
work do I choose to say yes to versus now say no to? So it's funny, isn't it, that I heard once that every problem that we solve creates another problem. Now you have so many clients who are like, no, what am I going to do with most of the day? So it's a good problem to have though, when being able to choose what work you want to say yes to.
And I guess I like all my work is around how do you move from accidental to intentional leadership. And I guess that that's really probably the crux of what I'm talking about today is you have helped me shift from an accidental way I was leading my business to now being more intentional. And I'm sure there will still be times that I won't have enough work or that, I go back into those panic phases. But I think it's growing into being more intentional around my business is a huge shift from just kind of almost grabbing onto everything because you feel you need to. So it's quite nice symmetry in terms of the work that I actually go out and do and maybe how I've grown within my own business because of being part of the program.
Yeah, totally love that symmetry. It's perfect. So this is always a hard one for people, but I'll ask it anyway. Biggest takeaway from the program?
Do you know, I think probably my biggest takeaway is like be bold and brave enough to do what works for you and what you know is right for you. Like there is a lot of noise, especially on social media. And I mean, I attended a million webinars trying to find the right way to do something, or it's very easy to get distracted and think about what everyone's telling you should do. I think maybe the biggest takeaway from me from your program, because it was about me and my business, not a generic, this is what you do to build a business, is that actually I can create a business in a way that works for me without, there are obviously still very scary things, as in like stepping out of your comfort zone or living out of your comfort zone permanently. But I can build that in a way that really aligns to what I feel is right and important. I don't have to listen to the shoulds. And I think without the program, I could have got very lost in trying to replicate what other people said I should be doing to build a business that is effective for you in your life. So I guess that's my biggest takeaway.
Love it. That's so good because I hear the term niche police and I would go, oh God, no, I'm the niche police. It's awful. So I'm so glad that even though there are certain steps that generally all businesses need to do, i.e., know who you're selling to, know what you're selling, and tell people about it, that you felt able to find your way of doing it and take what you needed from all of the things that we share in the program.
Absolutely. And look, I absolutely had to work through lots of those steps that were maybe not what I would have done. And I think that's the thing. It's not necessarily how I would, if I hadn't joined the program, how I would have gone through those steps would have been very different and definitely not as effective. There were key steps for me in the modules that I did within the program that helped develop skills that I didn't have, which is why I joined, because I had qualifications that I was absolutely credible as a coach, and in my leadership past, what I didn't have was the skills to build parts and a foundation of the business. But I think the key is, as you said, exactly that. The foundations are there, but the way I would apply them in the wider world was down to the way that I want to do things and that feels as comfortable as possible, rather than, there's other programs that I look to sign up to where it's very rigid and they promise you certain results. If the process is not, for me, what I really could feel like I could do or wanted to do or had the capability at that time, I would have just sat back and avoided and actually not got the results. So I think it's the flexibility and the personalized approach that enabled me to probably engage with things that maybe otherwise I wouldn't have done.
Yeah, love to hear. And so what's next for you?
Mm. I guess what's next for me is probably going back to that intentionality in terms of thinking really carefully, what do I really want my business to be now that it is established? And how do I grow that in a way that still suits? It's the kind of the conflict I have in my life is like wild ambition with the need to have healthy family life. So how I balance the two effectively. But I think there's also part of me that's learned what comes next will come as long as you commit and keep taking those steps forward or keep making connections, keep having conversations. So I think what comes to me next is maybe also trying to take some pressure off and allow some of this organically now to grow. And then probably reach out for further support when I'm at the point where I think I need to take the next step, like what I've learned. And you said I was willing to ask for help. I think that's the other thing I've learned, which maybe earlier in my career I hadn't nailed. There are times where actually asking for support and getting help enables you to move so much quicker to where you want to go, which suits my hurry up driver, rather than trying to solve it all yourself and think, well, I should be able to do this alone. So there will be a time where I think, okay, yes, I'm now ready to re-engage with a program and look at what's that next bit of growth about and how do I do that in the best way.
Love it. And I love the balance of wild ambition and family. I've never heard it phrased like that. And I think you've nailed it for me as well. Like, for some reason, I'm obsessed by growing my business and I love every minute of it. And then also I need to do the school run in a couple of hours. So just tone it down a little bit. Would you recommend the program? And if so, who to?
I would wholeheartedly recommend the program. I would recommend it, to anyone who has a passion and maybe done those qualifications in coaching and is sitting in a space thinking, I'm on my own and I'm not sure where to turn or what to do next. So definitely for someone like me who had a fledgling business but wasn't sure quite where to take it. But I'd also recommend it to somebody that has already gone a fair way down the track, but maybe is a bit stuck or needs a community around them that helps challenge, support, and maybe kind of tweak or get a new perspective on what you think you're doing well or where your development needs to be. It's actually, I think, sometimes coming together with other people that are in similar positions helps to open your eyes to what else is out there and the possibilities. But I would absolutely say, just even from that very first phone call in that hotel room, like I knew that the impact was needed, but was something that probably I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. So if anyone is wondering whether they should just reach out, I would say it's the best thing I've done for my business.
Amazing, Jenny. Gosh, thank you so, so much. I'm overjoyed. And I was saying to my clients this week, I have an application form for my program. And I was saying that what I've been doing is looking at what people typed in that application form from top performing clients versus maybe people that didn't proceed and join the program and what the difference is. And what I noticed that it is that person is ready to make one decision to go for it in their business and be supported after making that one decision that this will work for me and I will build a business. And that, you're the absolute embodiment of that.
And I think you're right. It is one decision at a time. I think the first thing, and I would say to anyone, just reach out and get to know you and what you stand for and what you do. Like that first little step can lead to so many other little steps, which is what happened to me. And actually, then you get out the other side and think, it's something that I miss having now that I've kind of come through the business of coaching. But yeah, what have you got to lose by just taking that step to find out more?
Love it. Thank you so, so much, Jenny. It was a pleasure to work with you, and thank you for sharing your story.
And thanks so much, Joe. It's been a wonderful experience and I really appreciate your time today.
I hope you loved hearing Jenny's lessons. I'm so grateful that she shared so openly as to what her highlights were from the program. It helps me to celebrate how many different types of people can enjoy success in the program, from people who are just starting out and want that step-by-step journey to people who are further down the line and actually just want to really figure out what way do they want to go in their business and then fully be supported to step and go all in. So if that is you and you want to make one decision and be supported the rest of the way, then you will find the link to the Business of Coaching program in the show notes. There is a form at the bottom of that page if you want to share a bit about you and your business. And that will give me the opportunity to get back to you personally and let you know if I think the program suits your needs and how I best can support you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I have a mass of free resources on my website, joannalottcoaching.com. That's Joanna with an A and Lott with 2 T's, joannalottcoaching.com. And I'll also put links in the show notes below. Let me know if you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and leave me a review, and I will personally thank you for that. Remember to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Get into the arena, dare greatly and try.